A head is resting in my lap. A huge head, covered in rough black fur, so heavy that my legs have been numb for hours. But I don't move. I dare not, because this head belongs to the creature everyone calls the beast, the demon of the pit, Salvatore's punishment for anyone who dares to challenge him. And in some impossible way he trusts me enough to sleep like this, vulnerable, his muzzle warming my trembling hands. I sink my fingers into his fur, feeling the old scars beneath the coat. So many scars, so many stories of pain he cannot tell me with words. But I've learned to read the suffering in his red eyes. I've learned that every low growl is not a threat, but a lament. That every time he nudges his snout against my shoulder, he isn't smelling me out of predatory instinct, but seeking comfort. 5 days. Only 5 days since I was thrown into this dark, damp pit, condemned for a crime I didn't commit. 5 days since I first looked into this creature's eyes and saw not monstrosity, but recognition, as if he knew exactly what it was like to be falsely accused, as if he too had been betrayed. Outside I hear footsteps, heavy boots descending the stone stairs. My heart races. It's Salvatore. It is always Salvatore, coming to check if the beast has finally devoured me, if the spectacle of terror he orchestrated yielded the expected result. The creature in my lap stirs, his red eyes open, glowing in the darkness like live embers. He hears the steps too, and for the first time since we met, I feel something different emanating from him. Not fear, not submission, rage. A rage so ancient and deep, it makes the air around us feel thicker. He lifts his head slowly, muscles contracting beneath the fur, and a low growl vibrates in his chest. It's not the sound he makes when he has nightmares. It's different. It's the sound of something that has been pushed too far and has finally decided to push back. And then something happens that will change everything. Something I never imagined possible. The beast speaks. Not with words, not yet. But when Salvatore opens the grate above, when the faint light invades our dark sanctuary, I hear it. Inside my head, inside my heart. A voice raspy, broken from disuse, but unequivocally human. I will not let him hurt you. Not ever again. And that is when I realize the impossible truth everyone ignored. The truth Salvatore hid for 5 whole years. The beast has a name, and that name is Dante. If you want to know how I reached this impossible moment, how a condemned healer discovered that the clan's most feared creature was actually their lost king, leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Comment below where you are listening to my story from. Come with me to the beginning of this journey, to the day I was thrown into the pit and found not a monster, but a soul as broken as mine. This story is mine, but now it is yours too. It all began 5 days ago, when I was dragged through the clan streets, while everyone I knew turned their faces away, when Salvatore smiled at me with that cruel smirk and said the words that would change my life forever. Let's see how long you last with the beast. They dragged me through the streets as if I were trash. It didn't matter that my hands had healed half the clan. It didn't matter that I had spent entire nights preparing salves for sick children, that I had saved Matteo's wife from a deadly fever, that I had been the only one willing to clean the infected wounds of warriors returning from battles. None of that mattered when Salvatore pointed his finger at me and said the word that changed everything. Traitor. My bare feet bled on the uneven stones of the main street. The guards holding my arms were careless. Their partially shifted claws tore my skin. I felt the blood running warm down my elbows, dripping onto the ground. But the physical pain was nothing compared to the pain inside. The people I had known my entire life watched me from windows. Faces that had smiled at me now turned away. Doors closed. Mothers pulled their children inside, as if my mere presence could contaminate them. Valentina poisoned the council. Salvatore's voice echoed through the central square, amplified by magic. He stood high on the main hall stairs, dressed in the Alpha's robes, wearing the crown that was not rightfully his. She confessed, admitted to putting wolfsbane in the water I served the elders. I confessed nothing, I screamed, trying to pull free from the guards. You tortured me, made me sign something I couldn't read. Silence. Salvatore's roar made the windows vibrate. His alpha aura expanded, heavy and suffocating, forcing my wolf to shrink inside me. It was wrong. Everything about him was wrong. A true alpha's aura should be strong, but protective. His was only cruel. He descended the stairs slowly, each step measured to create impact. Salvatore had always been handsome in a calculated way. Golden hair perfectly styled, expensive clothes, a smile that was too white. But there was something rotten beneath all that perfection. Something that made my skin crawl every time he came near. Valentina's poison killed 7 elders in one night. He stopped in front of me, so close I smelled his cloying cologne. 7 wise leaders who guided me. She destroyed the leadership of our clan. A lie. Everything was a lie. I had prepared that water, yes, but I had not put poison in it. I would never do that. But then why did everyone believe him? Why did no one question it? Do you know the punishment for treason, Valentina? Salvatore touched my chin with cold fingers, forcing me to look at him. There was pleasure in his eyes. He was enjoying this. Death, I whispered, my voice failing. Yes. Death would be appropriate. He let go of my chin and turned to the crowd. But I am merciful. I will give her a chance to survive. Merciful. The word was a cruel joke. Bring her to the pit. The silence that followed was absolute. Even the guards holding me tensed up. One of them muttered something that sounded like a prayer. The other loosened his grip on my arm, as if he suddenly didn't want to touch me anymore. The pit. Everyone knew the pit. It was where Salvatore threw those who challenged him, where no one returned from. They said there was something down there, something ancient and hungry. Some called it a demon, others a beast. But everyone agreed on one thing. Anyone who went down to the pit did not come up alive. No. The word came out weak, pathetic. Please, Salvatore, please. Beg. He smiled. I like it when they beg. Tears burned my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. I wouldn't give him that satisfaction. I wouldn't sink lower than I already had. So I spat in his face. Salvatore's smile died. He wiped the spit away slowly, his eyes darkening from golden to red. The partial transformation began, fangs growing, claws lengthening. Take her. His voice was a guttural growl. Now. They dragged me through the village to the ancient part of the territory, where buildings gave way to stone ruins, where the forest began to swallow what had once been a great hall. And in the center of those ruins, there was a hole in the ground, black, deep, with a corroded iron grate covering the opening. The pit. The smell coming from it was horrific. Mold, dampness, and something else. Something animal and wild that made every survival instinct in me scream to run. You have the honor of feeding the beast. Salvatore arrived behind us, surrounded by his lackeys. My brother used to say that every traitor deserves a fair trial. So here is yours. If the beast does not eat you, you are innocent. If he eats you, he shrugged. Well, justice will have been served. Your brother? The words came out before I could stop them. You mean Alpha Dante? Salvatore's expression became dangerous. My brother is dead and buried, forgotten. I am the Alpha now. But there was something in the way he said it. A poorly disguised lie. A secret hidden between the lines. Enough talk. Salvatore motioned to the guards. Throw her in. They dragged me to the grate. 2 other wolves lifted it, and the sound of metal scraping against metal echoed through the clearing. The hole below was so dark it seemed to swallow the light itself. Wait. My voice was desperate. Please. I didn't do anything. You know I didn't. You framed me. I did what was necessary to consolidate my power. Salvatore crouched down to my level, his face too close to mine. The elders questioned my authority, questioned how my brother conveniently disappeared. They needed to die. And you, my dear Valentina, were the perfect victim to blame. A healer without family, without protection, without anyone who cared. Icy horror ran through my veins. You killed them. You killed the council yourself. Prove it. He smiled. Oh, wait. You can't. Because who will believe the word of a convicted traitor? And then they pushed me. I fell. The world spun, air and darkness mixing. I tried to scream, but the sound was trapped in my throat. I could only think one thing. I am going to die. I am going to die here. The impact came, not hitting the bottom of the pit, but something higher up. A stone projection, perhaps. I felt my ankle twist at a horrible angle, pain exploding like fire through my leg. I fell sideways, rolled, and finally stopped, gasping and shaking. Above me, the opening of the pit was a distant circle of gray light. I heard the grate being closed again, the sound of a bolt locking, and then Salvatore's voice, echoing down the hole. "Enjoy your last night, Valentina. I hear the beast likes to play with its food before eating." Laughter, cruel and distant, then footsteps retreating, and silence. I lay there on the cold, damp stones, feeling the throbbing pain in my ankle, and tried not to panic. I needed to assess the situation. I needed to find a way out. I tried to sit up, and the pain almost made me faint. My ankle was swelling quickly, already twice its normal size. Twisted or broken, I wasn't sure. Either way, I wouldn't be able to climb the pit walls. Not like this. I looked around, trying to let my eyes adjust to the darkness. The light coming from above was minimal, but enough to see shapes. Stones, walls of compacted earth, dark patches that could be mold or old blood. And at the bottom, much deeper than where I was, pure darkness. That was where the smell came from. Animal. Wild. Alive. Something was down there. Something big. And it was awake. I heard it. It wasn't my imagination. It was real. The sound of something moving. Heavy. Scraping stone. Breathing. My heart raced. Every instinct screamed for me to climb, to scale, to flee. But there was nowhere to go. I was trapped. Injured. Alone. So I did the only thing I could do. I leaned against the stone wall behind me, pulled my injured leg close to my body, and waited. I waited for the beast everyone said lived in the dark. I waited for the death Salvatore was sure would come. And in the damp silence of that forgotten hole, as the darkness closed around me like cold fingers, I made a promise to myself. If I died there, it wouldn't be begging. It wouldn't be trembling with fear as Salvatore wanted. If the beast came, I would face it with open eyes. And perhaps, just perhaps, I would discover if the real monsters were the ones who lived in the dark, or the ones who wore crowns that didn't belong to them. The first hour was the worst, not because of the silence, not because of the throbbing pain in my ankle, but because of the waiting, knowing that something was down there, something that breathed and moved, and not knowing when it would come. I tried to distract myself. I counted the drops of water dripping from somewhere in the depths. 1 every 12 seconds, roughly. The sound echoed, metallic and cold, marking time in a way that made me more anxious with each repetition. My eyes had adjusted to the darkness as much as they could. Vague shapes became visible. The rough wall behind me. The floor covered in something that could be ancient bones, or just branches brought by the rain. I preferred to believe they were branches, but I couldn't see the bottom. Wherever the beast was, it was beyond the reach of the little light filtering from above. And then I heard it again, closer this time. The sound of claws dragging on stone, heavy, deliberate, as if something large was climbing, coming toward me. My heart pounded. I pressed my back against the wall so hard that the rough stone scraped my skin through the thin fabric of my dress. There was nowhere to go, nowhere to hide. The sound stopped. Absolute silence. Not even the water drops, as if time itself was holding its breath. And then I felt it. Heat. Warm breath on my face. So close the damp air touched my cheek. It smelled of raw meat and something deeper, something wild that had no name. I opened my eyes slowly, even though I knew I didn't want to see what was in front of me. Red eyes. Not orange like an ordinary wolf's. Not golden like an alpha's in partial shift, but red, glowing like live embers, suspended in the darkness a few inches from my face. Too large to be human, too intense to be just animal. The creature was so close I could see the reflection of my own tiny form in those eyes. I could see every blood vessel, every fragment of light captured there. My mouth opened to scream, but no sound came out. My entire body was frozen. Not strictly from fear, but from something more primal. The instinctive recognition that I was in the presence of a supreme predator. that my brain had shut down all non-essential functions because it knew there was no chance of escape. The beast tilted its head. The movement was almost curious, like a dog trying to understand a new sound. And then it moved closer. I felt the snout touch my shoulder. Cold and damp. The texture rough like worn leather. It smelled. A long, deep inhalation that made its whole body vibrate. My scent. It was memorizing my scent. This should have terrified me even more, but something strange happened. Its breathing, which had been heavy and threatening, slowed down. Calmer. As if my scent had caused some kind of reaction in it. It pulled back a bit, and I could finally see more than just the eyes. The form was vaguely lupine, but distorted in ways that defied nature. Too large. Its shoulders reached my chest even with the creature on all fours. The fur was black, but where the little light touched, I saw it was uneven. There were patches of exposed skin, scars. So many scars it was hard to count. Chains. There were chains attached to its neck, heavy, rusted, dragging on the ground when it moved. And where the chains touched, the skin was raw, red and inflamed. This was not an invoked demon. This was a wolf, a tortured wolf, trapped here for so long it had forgotten how to be anything else. Hi. My voice came out as a broken whisper, pathetic even to myself, but I didn't know what else to say. The red eyes blinked. The first time I saw the creature do something so human. "Are you going to kill me?" I asked, and realized I was crying. Tears streamed down my face, uncontrollable. "Because if you are, please make it quick. I don't want to suffer any more than I already have today." The beast made a sound, not a growl, something lower, more guttural, almost like a dog's whimper, but coming from something the size of a small horse. And then something happened that I didn't expect. It lowered its massive head and pressed its snout against my injured ankle. Gently, so gently I barely felt it. It sniffed the swollen area, and another sound came from it. That was definitely a whimper. Of concern, I realized with shock. It was concerned about me. "It's twisted," I explained, not even sure why I was talking to a creature that clearly didn't understand words. "It hurt when I fell. I don't think I can walk properly." The beast lifted its head and looked at me for a long moment. And then, with a movement that would have been absurd if it hadn't been so unexpected, it nudged me. Not hard, just a touch of the snout against my shoulder, guiding me to move. It wanted me to lean further against the wall. I obeyed, confused, dragging myself a few inches back until my back was fully supported by the stone. My injured leg stretched out in front. The beast watched, seeming satisfied with the adjustment, and then did something even more bizarre. It lay down, not on top of me, but beside me, its massive body forming a barrier between me and the rest of the pit, between me and anything that might come from the depths. The heat emanating from it was intense. After hours in the damp cold of the stone, it was almost painful to feel so much heat suddenly, but it was good. Better than good. It was the first comforting thing I had felt since I was dragged from my home. "What are you?" I whispered, looking at the massive creature beside me. It didn't answer. It just closed its red eyes, its breathing becoming deeper, more regular, as if it were going to sleep. But even sleeping, or pretending to sleep, it kept one front paw stretched toward me, not touching me, but close enough that if anything tried to reach me, it would know. It was guarding me. The hours passed in silence. I don't know how long I lay there, feeling the beast's heat radiating against my side, hearing its deep breathing mixed with the constant drip of water. My ankle throbbed. My entire body ached. But strangely, I was no longer afraid. Because the creature beside me, the beast everyone said was a bloodthirsty demon, hadn't attacked me, hadn't devoured me, had done nothing but offer me warmth and protection. And that raised questions I couldn't stop asking. Why would a beast act like this? Why would a demon show compassion? Unless it was neither a beast nor a demon. I looked at the sleeping creature beside me, at the chains that bound it, at the scars that covered every visible inch of skin, at the impossible size that suggested not an ordinary wolf, but an alpha. Salvatore said his brother is dead. I spoke softly, more to myself than to the creature. He said Dante disappeared, but he never said how, never showed a body, and suddenly there was a beast in the pit, a beast no one had seen before. The creature stirred slightly, as if my words had disturbed it even in sleep. Everyone always talked about how huge Dante was, the largest alpha in generations, how he was gentle with the weak, but fierce with enemies, how he protected every clan member, as if they were his own family. I reached out slowly, my heart pounding, and touched the black fur. The beast didn't move. It just continued breathing, deep and steady. You protect too, don't you? I whispered. Even when you shouldn't. Even when it would be easier to kill me and be done with it. You chose to protect me. My fingers found one of the larger scars. I gently ran them over the raised skin, feeling how much it must have hurt. How much it must still hurt. How long did he keep you here? How long did Salvatore torture you until you forgot your name? Until you forgot who you were? I didn't expect an answer, but something shifted in the air. The temperature seemed to drop a few degrees, and when I looked at the beast, I saw that the red eyes were open, fixed on me. There was no anger there, no threat, just a sadness so profound it made my heart clench. Dante. I spoke the name as a test, as a prayer. You are Dante, aren't you? The creature made a sound, low, broken. Neither confirmation nor denial, just pain, an ancient, immense pain that couldn't be contained in words. And then it did something that brought tears to my eyes again. It placed its massive head in my lap. The weight was immense. My legs protested. But I didn't care, because I understood what that gesture meant. Trust. It was trusting me. A creature that had been betrayed, tortured, turned into a monster, was choosing to trust someone again. I sank my hands into its rough fur, ignoring the dirt, the dried blood, the wild smell, and I did the only thing I could do. I offered comfort. I don't know if you understand me. My voice was hoarse with emotion. I don't know if there's still anything human inside you, but if there is, if some part of Dante is still there, I want you to know one thing. I ran my fingers over his snout, wiping away accumulated dirt with the hem of my skirt. You are not forgotten. You are not a monster. And I won't leave you alone here in the dark, not as long as I'm alive. The red eyes watched me, and for a moment, just a brief moment, the color changed. Not red, but golden. The deep golden of a true alpha. Then it returned to red, as if that flash of humanity had been too quick to last. But I had seen it, and now I knew for sure. The beast was not a beast. It was a man, a king, betrayed by his own blood and left to rot in the depths. And somehow, against all odds, I had been thrown here not as punishment, but as salvation, for him and for me. The first dawn in the pit was not marked by light, but by sound. The metallic creak of the grate above, heavy footsteps, and then Salvatore's voice, echoing off the stone walls like a funeral bell. Still alive, Valentina? What a disappointment. I didn't answer. I was too busy feeling the beast beside me tense up, every muscle growing rigid beneath the fur, a low growl starting deep in his chest. Not for me, for the sound above. My hand automatically went to his neck, sinking into the rough hairs, trying to calm him. Shh, it's okay. He can't reach us down here. But I was wrong. Something fell through the opening, heavy, wet. It hit the stone projection where I was with a sickening sound. It rolled until it stopped near my feet. Meat. A large piece of raw meat, still bleeding. It looked like venison or moose, thrown down as if we were animals in a zoo. Feed the beast, Salvatore laughed. Or let the beast feed on you. Your choice. The footsteps retreated. The grate closed again. I looked at the meat, at the beast beside me. He had stood up, red eyes fixed on the food, but he didn't move, just watched, waiting. You must be hungry, I spoke softly. Go ahead, eat. The beast looked at me, then at the meat, then at me again, and then did something completely unexpected. He picked up the piece of meat with his teeth, dragged it over to where I was, and dropped it at my feet. Then he backed away, sat down, waited. He was offering it to me. No. I felt my stomach turn. I can't eat that. It's raw. I'm not. But then I realized. For him, this was care. The same way a mother wolf feeds her pups. He was trying to keep me alive. In the only way he knew how. Thank you, I said, and it was sincere. But you need it more than I do. Please, eat. The beast tilted his head, that gesture of confusion that was already becoming familiar. Then, slowly, he took the meat back and began to eat. Not with the voracity of a starving animal, but with care, as if he was still not sure if it was allowed. How many times did Salvatore deny him food? How many times did he use hunger as torture? I spent the rest of that morning just observing. The way he ate, the way he moved. Every scar visible now that there was more light coming from above. There were so many, some old and white, others recent, still pink and tender. My fingers itched to heal, to prepare salves and bandages, but I had nothing, just my hands, my voice, my presence, so I offered what I had. You have a wound on your left side. I pointed to where the chains had rubbed the skin raw. I can see it from here. It must hurt a lot. The beast stopped eating, looked where I pointed. He hadn't been able to reach that spot to lick or clean it. Can I try to clean it? I offered, my voice trembling slightly. I don't have herbs or clean water, but I can at least remove the dirt. It might help keep it from getting infected. Silence. The beast watched me for so long I thought he would refuse. Then slowly, he approached, each step deliberate, cautious, until he was beside me again. He lay down, exposing the wounded flank, trusting me. My heart clenched. I'll try not to hurt you, okay? If it hurts too much, you can push me away. I won't be angry. I tore a strip from my skirt. The fabric was already dirty and torn anyway. I used the cleanest part and started working gently around the wound. The beast remained completely still, but I felt the tension in him. Every time I touched too close to the raw flesh, the muscles contracted. A low growl vibrated in his chest. Not of anger, of pain. I know it hurts. I'm sorry. Just a little more. I wiped away the dried blood, the ingrained dirt. I exposed the wound, which was even worse than I had imagined. The skin was open in some places, revealing muscle underneath. This needed stitches, antibiotics, real care. But all I had was my voice and my hands. So I spoke. I let the words flow as I worked. My grandmother taught me to heal. She said the best healers weren't those who knew the most herbs, but those who knew how to listen. Listen to what the body was saying. Listen to what the soul needed. I gently ran my fingers around the edge of the wound, feeling the heat of the inflammation. Your body is saying it's tired, that it has carried pain for too long, that it needs rest and kindness. I looked into his red eyes, and your soul is screaming for freedom, for justice, for being seen again as what you truly are. The beast made a sound, not a growl, something softer, more broken, like a whimper caught in the throat. And then, for the first time, he leaned his head against my shoulder, pressed his snout against my neck, breathed deeply. He was seeking comfort, the way a pup would seek its mother, the way a frightened child would seek protection. I wrapped my arms around his massive neck, ignoring the dirty fur, the smell of blood and damp earth. I know, Dante. I know. Using the name seemed to do something to him. His whole body trembled. A sound came from him that was almost a sob, as if hearing his own name after so long had broken something inside him. You're still in there, aren't you? I whispered against his fur. Dante is still inside, trapped, trying to remember how to be human. His breathing became ragged, heavy. He moved his snout away from my neck and looked at me, and in the red eyes, I saw it. Pain. So much pain. The pain of someone who had forgotten his own name, but still felt the absence of it like a constant void. I will help you remember, I promised. I don't know how. I don't know if it's possible, but I will try. The second day was quieter. The beast didn't move away from me for a moment. When I moved to try to stretch my legs, he moved with me. When I fell asleep from exhaustion, I woke up with his head in my lap or his massive body curled around me like a shield. Salvatore didn't come. No food was thrown down. It was part of the torture, I realized, alternating between feeding and neglect, between attention and abandonment, breaking the psychology as much as the body. But I had learned to survive on little, and apparently, so had Dante. We spent the day in comfortable silence. I spoke sometimes. Stories from my childhood, memories from before the accusation. He listened. Always listened. His head tilted, his eyes fixed on me as if every word was precious. "Do you remember when you were Alpha?" I asked sometime in the afternoon, when the light above began to turn golden. "The people you led? The decisions you made?" A low whimper. Sad. "It must be strange, to be trapped in a form that isn't completely yours, not being able to speak, not being able to be understood." He placed his huge paw on my leg, carefully, without pressing too hard, just touching. "But I understand you." I covered his paw with my hand. "Maybe not with words, but I understand. When you tilt your head like that, I know you're confused. When your eyes grow darker, I know you're sad. When you growl low, I know it's not for me but for memories that hurt you." I squeezed his paw. "You're not alone anymore, Dante. Not while I'm here." The night of the second day brought the nightmares. I had fallen asleep leaning against him, using his warm body as a pillow. My ankle still hurt but was improving. Wolf healing was slow in me, but it worked. It was the whimper that woke me. Loud. Desperate. The beast was thrashing, his paws scraping the stone floor, his head shaking from side to side. His eyes closed. Trapped in some terror only he could see. "Dante!" I tried to touch him, but he was moving too much. "Wake up! You're dreaming!" He slammed against the wall, the chains clanging violently. A howl tore from his throat. Not of rage, of pure agony. Whatever he was seeing was tearing him apart. I didn't think. I just acted. I threw my body over his, wrapped my arms around his massive neck, pressed my face against his fur, and held on with all the strength I had. "You are safe," I spoke against his skin, my voice firm despite the fear. "No matter what you're seeing, it's not real. You are here, with me, and you are safe." The beast froze, his entire body rigid beneath me. "I'm here," I continued, running my hands through his fur in a rhythmic pattern. "I won't let go of you. I won't leave you alone. I'm here, Dante. I always will be." I felt the tension start to leave his body. Slowly, muscles relaxing one by one, his breathing becoming less ragged, more regular. He turned his head, looked at me with those red eyes that now seemed so vulnerable, so lost, and then he did something that made my heart nearly stop. He gently nudged my shoulder with his snout. Then he shifted, lying down so his head was in my lap. He positioned my body so I was reclined against the wall, safe and comfortable, with him sprawled beside me. He was reversing our roles. It wasn't just him protecting me anymore. It was mutual now. I protected his nightmares. He protected my body. I sank my hands into his fur, stroking the massive head, and hummed. An old lullaby my grandmother used to sing, without real words, just melody. The beast closed his eyes. And for the first time since I fell into this pit, I heard him purr, a deep, guttural sound that vibrated through his entire body. Contentment. I fell asleep like that, with the head of a lost king in my lap, with my fingers tangled in black fur, with the feeling that something fundamental had changed between us. We were no longer separate prisoners sharing a space. We were allies, companions, family. The third day dawned with pain, not physical, but emotional, because I woke up and realized something terrifying. I didn't want to leave here. Outside, I was a condemned traitor, an elder killer. No one wanted me. No one would defend me. My death would be celebrated. But here, in the dark with the beast, I was needed, important, seen. It was a sick realization, and I knew it, but I couldn't ignore it. "Am I going crazy?" I asked Dante, who was watching me with that intensity I now recognized as concern. "Because I'd rather be trapped in a hole with you than free up there with them." He placed his paw on my hand, squeezed gently. "You understand, don't you? You'd rather be here, where at least the pain is honest, than up there where everyone lies and betrays. A whimper of agreement. We're perfect pairs then. 2 exiles. 2 forgotten ones. But then I heard it. Sounds above. Not Salvatore. Multiple voices. Guards discussing something. And then a voice that chilled my blood. The Alpha wants the healer alive. He has plans for her. Maybe a public trial. Maybe just more torture. I don't know. But we need to get her out before the beast kills her. They were going to take me. They were going to separate me from him. I looked at Dante and saw the same understanding in his eyes. His lips curled back, showing huge fangs. A growl started, so low I felt it more than heard it. No. I held his snout between my hands. Don't fight now. They'll hurt you more. The grate opened. Light flooded the pit. 3 guards looked down, armed with silver spears. Valentina, step away from the beast. I didn't move. No. That's an order. I don't care. The beast stood up, positioning himself between me and the guards. The growl was now loud, threatening, every muscle taut, ready to fight. Listen, I shouted up. Tell Salvatore if he wants me alive, leave me here. The beast isn't hurting me. I'm safe. Safer than I would be up there with him. You've lost your mind. Maybe, but it's my choice. One of the guards laughed. The Alpha doesn't give choices. And then a rope was lowered, thick and sturdy, with a noose at the end. They were going to pull me up, whether I wanted it or not. Dante roared. The sound was so loud, so primal, that the guards flinched. One of them nearly fell, but the rope kept descending, further and further, until the noose touched the ground a few feet from me. Last chance, Valentina. Put the noose on or we come down and put it on by force. I looked at Dante, at the red eyes that now glowed with something beyond rage. Fear of losing the only connection he had made in 5 years. I touched the side of his snout. I'll come back. I promise. Somehow, I'll come back. He pressed his forehead against mine, and for the first time, I felt it. Truly felt it. Not with my ears, but with something deeper. A voice, raspy, broken, but unmistakably his. Don't. Leave me. Alone. Tears streamed down my face. Never. I would never leave you. But I need to go now so I can come back later. You need to trust me. He trembled, his entire massive body shaking like a leaf. But slowly, painfully, he backed away, giving me space. I grabbed the noose with trembling hands and placed it around my waist. You can pull me up. The rope tightened, and I began to ascend. The last thing I saw before the darkness of the pit was left behind were the red eyes, fixed on me, shining with tears that wolves shouldn't be able to shed. And I knew, with absolute certainty, that I had just broken his heart, just as he had broken mine. They threw me into a cell, not the clan's usual prison, but something worse. A room in the back of the castle where Salvatore kept his instruments, chains hanging on the walls. Dark stains on the floor I preferred not to identify, and in the center, a metal chair with leather straps. Sit down. Salvatore was leaning against the wall, watching as the guards shoved me inside. We have a lot to discuss. I have nothing to discuss with you. Ah, but you do. He approached, that cruel smile playing on his lips. You spent 3 days with the beast. 3 whole days. And you're alive. Unharmed. How? I didn't answer. I just stared at him. The beast kills everything that falls into the pit. He continued, circling me like a predator. In 5 years, I threw 16 people down there. Traitors, spies, those who questioned my authority. They all died, torn apart, devoured. But you, he stopped in front of me. You came out without a scratch. Perhaps your beast isn't as monstrous as you make him out to be. His hand flew out, striking me squarely across the face. I tasted blood in my mouth. Don't test me, he snarled. Tell me, what happened down there? I spat blood onto the floor. Nothing that interests you. Another blow. Stronger this time. My vision darkened at the edges. Last chance, Valentina. What makes you special? Why did the beast spare you? And suddenly I understood. He was afraid. Afraid that I had discovered the truth. Afraid that his secret would be exposed. Because he recognized me. The words came out before I could stop them. He recognized someone as betrayed as he was. As used. As broken by your brother. Salvatore froze. What did you say? The eyes. I gasped. Red, but sometimes golden. True alpha. He let go of me and I fell, coughing, fighting for air. Too smart for your own good. Salvatore walked to a table, picking something up. A whip. But not ordinary. It had silver strands braided into the leather. I'll give you a choice. You forget what you saw. Forget what you think you know. And I let you live as a slave. Or, he cracked the whip. Or I throw you back into the pit. But this time, I'll go down with you. And I will teach both you and that thing your place. Icy terror ran through my veins. Not for me. For Dante. Salvatore would hurt him. He would torture him again. Choose slavery. My voice was broken. I choose. The door exploded. It didn't open. It exploded, wood flying into pieces. And in the gap, illuminated by the corridor lights, was a shape that made my heart stop. Massive. Black. Red eyes glowing with a fury that seemed to burn the very air. Dante had escaped the pit. Impossible. Salvatore backed away. The chains. The grate was locked, but Dante wore no chains. They hung broken from his neck, snapped links dragging on the ground. He had freed himself, by sheer force of will and rage. His eyes found mine. I saw the moment he registered my bruised face, the blood on my chin, the finger marks on my neck, and something shifted. The growl that came from him was not animal. It was a promise of vengeance, of pain, of death. Dante. I tried to stand up, but my legs wouldn't obey. No, he's not worth... Salvatore laughed. A hysterical, desperate laugh. You think you can scare me? You're a beast, an animal. I am Alpha. He shifted. Partially. Claws, fangs, fur sprouting. But it was pathetic compared to Dante. Like comparing a candle to a bonfire. Dante attacked. It wasn't graceful. It was brutal. Violent. Primitive. He hit Salvatore with the force of an avalanche, throwing him against the wall with an impact that cracked the stone. Salvatore tried to fight, used the whip, the silver tips cutting Dante's fur, opening wounds that bled. But Dante didn't even seem to feel it. He was beyond pain, beyond fear. There was only pure fury. Stop, I screamed. Dante, stop. You'll kill yourself. He froze, turned his massive head to me, and in the red eyes, I saw confusion, conflict. That's when Salvatore attacked. The whip wrapped around Dante's neck, silver burning flesh. He pulled hard, bringing the beast down. I should have killed you years ago, Salvatore screamed. I should have finished you when I had the chance. But no, I had to be greedy. I had to want to keep my brother alive to torment, to break. And now, he pulled harder, Dante whimpering in pain. And now I'll finish the job, in front of her. I'll make her watch as I skin my brother alive. No, no, no. I forced myself to stand. Every movement was agony, but I didn't care. I stumbled to where Salvatore held the whip and did the only thing I could think of. I threw dirt in his eyes. Salvatore screamed, dropping the whip, his hands going to his face. And Dante, free again, didn't miss the opportunity. But this time was different. This time it wasn't just fury. It was something deeper. Something was breaking inside him. Bones cracking, muscles twisting. The skin beneath the fur beginning to tear. He was changing. No. Salvatore stumbled backward, genuine terror on his face now. No, you can't. I broke you. You forgot how... But Dante hadn't forgotten. The process was horrific to watch. The gigantic wolf began to shrink, but not naturally. It was as if every bone was being broken and reassembled. The skin tore, revealing not fur but human skin beneath. The red eyes flickered between red and gold, fighting. And through it all, Dante screamed. Not wolf howls, but human screams, of pain, of agony, of something being forced to remember a form that had been denied for too many years. Dante! I crawled toward him. Stop! You don't need to... Don't force yourself. But he didn't stop. Because it wasn't for him. It was for me. to be able to protect me properly, to be able to speak, to be able to be what Salvatore had stolen from him. The final transformation was like a wave, the fur completely retracting, the claws becoming fingers, the snout flattening into a human face. And then, for the first time in 5 years, Dante stood up, not on 4 paws, but on 2, naked, covered in blood and sweat, long disheveled hair falling over his shoulders, body marked by old and new scars, but unmistakably human and unmistakably majestic. He looked at his own hands, turned them over, saw fingers instead of claws, and the sound that came from him was pure disbelief. Then he looked at Salvatore, and when he spoke, the voice was raspy from disuse, broken, but charged with an authority that no torture could erase. Not ever again. The 2 words echoed through the room. Final. Absolute. Salvatore tried to run. Dante was faster. He grabbed the whip that had been used against him and wrapped it around his brother's neck. Pulled. Not hard enough to kill. Just to immobilize. You took 5 years from me, Dante hissed, every word a struggle. 5 years. Of my life. Of my clan. Turned me into a beast. Made me forget my name. Dante, Salvatore gasped. Brother, please. I am not your brother. Dante tightened the grip. Brothers do not betray, do not torture. He leaned closer. But I will not kill you. That would be mercy. You don't deserve it. He released Salvatore, who fell to the floor coughing. Then he turned to me, and for the first time he truly looked at me, not with wolf eyes, but with human eyes, golden, bright, full of an emotion so intense it left me breathless. You, his voice cracked, you brought me back. I tried to answer, but the tears came first. He was there, really there, not just the beast, but the man, the king. Dante stumbled toward me, falling to his knees beside me. Trembling hands touched my face, human fingers tracing the bruises Salvatore had left. He hurt you. I'm fine. I held his hands. You're here. That's all that matters. He pulled me into an embrace. Awkward, as if he didn't quite remember how to hug. But it was perfect, because it was him. Human. Real. Valentina. He whispered my name like a prayer. My savior. And there, in the midst of chaos, surrounded by blood and destruction, I knew. The king had returned, and nothing would ever be the same. The embrace lasted only a moment before we heard it. Footsteps. Many footsteps. Guards running down the corridors, drawn by the sound of the exploding door and the screams. In seconds, we would be surrounded. We need to get out. Dante tried to stand up but staggered. His knees gave way and he fell back. Body won't respond. Too weak. Of course he was. 5 years trapped in one form. 5 years of torture and hunger. The transformation had drained what little strength he had left. Here. I tore another piece of my already ruined skirt and wrapped it around his waist. It wasn't much, but it covered the essentials. I'll help you. Lean on me. You are hurt too. Less than you. I put his arm over my shoulders, ignoring the pain in my own body. Together. Remember? You're not alone anymore. He looked at me with an intensity that made my heart clench. Then he nodded. We stood up together, supporting each other, and turned toward the door. Salvatore was still on the floor, coughing, a hand on his neck where the whip had marked him. Guards! His voice was raspy but loud. Kill them! Kill both of them! Dante growled. The sound was strange coming from a human throat, but no less threatening. Try. We walked out of the torture room into the corridor, and that's when the chaos really began. 6 guards waited for us, armed, partially shifted, ready to attack. But when they saw Dante, when they really looked at him, something changed. One of them dropped his spear. The metallic sound echoed in the sudden silence. Alpha Dante? The guard's voice was trembling. But you're dead, Salvatore said. Salvatore lied. Dante took a step forward, and despite the weakness, despite being naked and covered in blood, there was an authority in him that could not be denied. About everything. Don't listen. Salvatore had reached the doorway, leaning on the frame. He's not Alpha anymore, I am. You are a traitor. Another guard spoke, and I recognized him. Marcus, one of the older warriors, someone who had served under Dante before. You said your brother died fighting invaders. Said you took the title by right of succession. And I did. Dante was dead. I was trapped. Dante pointed downward to where the pit was. In the hole. 5 years. He turned me into a beast. Made me forget who I was. Horror flashed across the guards' faces. One by one, they started to lower their weapons. The beast, Marcus whispered. The creature in the pit. Was you all along? Dante nodded. He broke me, tortured me, used silver and hunger and solitude, until I forgot how to be a man. Lies, Salvatore screamed. He's lying. Look at him. That's a monster pretending to be my brother. Then explain the scars. Marcus pointed to Dante's body. Explain the chain marks. Explain why he has the golden eyes of a true alpha and you don't. Salvatore froze. Because it was true. His eyes were yellow. Common wolf yellow. Not the deep gold that marked an alpha of lineage. I am alpha because I earned the title. Because I did what needed to be done. You are a usurper. Dante took another step, his voice getting stronger with each word, as if remembering how to speak was coming easier. You betrayed, poisoned, killed, and when the elders questioned it, you killed them too. Blamed Valentina, used her as a scapegoat. All eyes turned to me. I saw recognition, guilt. Some of the guards had watched me being dragged away, had turned their faces when I asked for help. It's true. My voice came out firmer than I expected. Salvatore confessed. He killed the council. He put the poison in the water I prepared. He framed me to consolidate his power. Prove it, Salvatore roared. You can't prove anything. We can. Dante turned to Marcus. The pit. Go there. Look. The chains are broken but still there, marked with blood. My blood. Test it. DNA does not lie. Marcus hesitated for only a second. Then he nodded and ran off. And while we wait, Dante looked around at the remaining guards. Does someone want to lend me clothes? Or will I have to lead naked? The comment was so absurd, so unexpected, that one of the guards gave a nervous laugh. The tension broke slightly. Another guard quickly took off his own tunic and offered it. I helped Dante put it on. My hands trembled as I tied the front, and he covered my hand with his. Thank you, he whispered. For everything. We're not finished yet, I replied. Salvatore won't give up easily. I know. He looked to where his brother stood, surrounded now by guards who no longer looked so loyal. But this time, I'm not alone. It took half an hour for Marcus to return. When he arrived, he was pale and carrying one of the broken links of the chain, covered in dried blood, old and new. I went down to the bottom, Marcus reported, his voice tight. I saw where he was kept, the marks on the stones, the blood, the old fur, from forced shifts, many shifts, absolute silence. And I found this. He held up something else, a medallion, dirty, rusted, but recognizable, the Alpha seal, the one Dante wore. It was at the bottom of the pit, half buried. Dante reached out his hand. Marcus placed the medallion in it. For a long moment, Dante just stared at the object, at the symbol of what he had been, what he had lost. Then he closed it in his fist. Salvatore, I challenge you. Here, now, for the right to lead. You can't. Salvatore backed away. You're weak. You can barely stand. True, Dante admitted. But even weak, I am still more alpha than you will ever be. So do you accept? Marcus asked Salvatore. Or do you admit defeat and submit to the judgment of the clan? Salvatore looked around, at the guards surrounding him, at Dante standing, trembling but firm, at me beside him, and then he did what cowards always do. He ran. He partially shifted and ran, throwing guards aside, dashing down the corridor toward the castle exit. No. Dante tried to go after him, but his knees buckled again. He cannot escape. I will. I didn't think. I just acted. I ran after Salvatore, ignoring the pain in my ankle, ignoring Dante's shouts calling me back. Salvatore was fast, but he was panicking. He wasn't thinking, just running. He crossed the main hall, knocking over furniture, and burst through the double doors, straight into the square, where half the clan was gathered. They had heard the noise. They had come to investigate, and now they saw their Alpha running like a cornered animal. Salvatore stopped in the center of the square, gasping, looking around at the people. "Go back! Go back to your homes! This is none of your business!" But then Dante appeared in the doorway, stumbling, supported by Marcus and another guard, but alive, human, real. "Dante?" A voice in the crowd. An elderly woman. "Alpha Dante? You're alive?" "Elena." Dante smiled at her, weak but genuine. "Yes, I am alive. But Salvatore said..." She looked between the two brothers. "He said you died, that you were attacked, that..." He lied. Dante descended the steps slowly. The crowd parted, creating a path. He betrayed me, imprisoned me, turned me into a beast, and ruled while I suffered in the dark. Murmurs erupted. Shock, anger, disbelief. "Don't listen," Salvatore shouted. "He's confused, traumatized. He's not the same. Look at him. He can barely walk." "True." Dante stopped in the middle of the square, face to face with his brother. "I can barely walk, because you broke me, physically and mentally, but even broken." His eyes flashed gold. "I am still your Alpha." The aura that emanated from him was like a wave, even weak, even injured. It was undeniable, ancient, powerful, real. Every wolf in the square felt it, and one by one they began to kneel, not to Salvatore, to Dante. "No," Salvatore looked around, desperate. "Get up, I command you. I am your Alpha." But no one moved. No one obeyed. Because a true Alpha is not made by crown or force. He is made by loyalty, by respect, by the love of those he leads. And Salvatore never had that. Dante held out his hand. "It's over, brother. Give up. Face justice. At least have that dignity." For a moment I thought Salvatore would accept. His shoulders slumped. His head dropped. But then he looked at me and smiled. "If I fall," he hissed, "I'm taking someone with me." And he attacked. Not Dante, but me. Everything happened in slow motion. Salvatore lunging, claws extended, aiming for my throat. Dante screaming, the crowd gasping. And then a shape flashed past me like a blur. Dante had moved, faster than he should have been able to. He put himself between me and Salvatore. The claws that should have ripped me open sank into his shoulder instead. Dante didn't scream. He just grabbed Salvatore's arm and squeezed. The sound of bone breaking was loud in the silent square. Salvatore fell, howling in pain, and Dante stood over him, bleeding, trembling, but victorious. "Touch her again." His voice was low, deadly. "And you will wish I had left you in the pit to rot." Guards rushed forward, restraining Salvatore, putting on chains, the same chains that had held Dante. Poetic justice. Dante turned to me, and I saw the moment the adrenaline ran out. His eyes rolled back, his knees gave way. I ran, catching him before he fell completely. "I got you. I'm here." He smiled. Weak, tired. "My savior," he whispered again, and then he fainted in my arms. 3 days later, I finally managed to get him out of the castle. Dante had woken up the next day, surrounded by healers and counselors, everyone wanting details, everyone offering loyalty, everyone asking for orders. But I saw it in his eyes. He was exhausted, not just physically, emotionally, socially. He had spent 5 years talking to no one but me, and now everyone wanted a piece of him. So I waited until the evening of the 3rd day, when the castle finally quieted, and went into his room. "Come with me." I held out my hand. He looked at me, then at the window, at the forest beyond, and understood. He didn't say anything, just took my hand. We left through the back doors, crossed the silent garden, and entered the forest. We didn't stop until we reached the edge, where the trees gave way to a small clearing, where the full moon bathed everything in silver light. Dante stopped in the center, breathed deeply. and for the first time in days, I saw his shoulders relax. "Thank you." His voice was stronger now. 3 days of talking had brought back the fluency. "I needed this." "I know." I sat on the grass, pulling him down to sit beside me. "You were suffocating in there." He lay down, looking up at the starry sky. 5 years in the dark, and now, too many people, too many voices, too many expectations. I lay down beside him, our shoulders touching. "You don't have to be the perfect alpha right away. You can just be Dante, at least for tonight." He turned his head, looking at me. The moonlight reflected in his golden eyes. Dante. It's still strange to hear that name. For so long I was just the beast, the thing, nothing. "You were never nothing." I took his hand, lacing our fingers together. "Even when you were lost, even when you had forgotten, you were still Dante." I saw it, in the way you protected me, in the way you cried during nightmares, in the way you trusted me even when everything told you not to. He squeezed my hand. "You saw me when no one else did, when even I didn't see myself, and you saw me too. When Salvatore threw me into the pit, I was broken, hopeless, ready to give up. But you," I smiled, "you gave me a reason to keep going. Because if something as hurt as you was still fighting to exist, how could I give up?" Dante turned onto his side, leaning on his elbow. He looked at me with an intensity that made my heart race. "Do you know what brought me back? During the transformation, when it hurt so much I wanted to give up, go back to wolf form and never leave. What? You." He touched my face with fingers that still trembled slightly. "The idea of not being able to hold you like this, of not being able to tell you with words, of not being able to protect you properly." His voice dropped lower. "Of not being able to kiss you." My heart stopped. "Dante, I fell in love with you in that pit," he confessed, every word charged with raw emotion. "When you cleaned my wounds, when you held my head during nightmares, when you spoke my name as if it still meant something. I fell in love, but I couldn't tell you. I couldn't show you. I could only stand by you and hope you felt it. I felt it." Tears streamed down my face now. "Of course I felt it. How could I not? You were the only good thing in a horrible place, the only kindness in a world of cruelty." He wiped my tears with his thumb. Can I kiss you now? Properly. As a man, not as a beast." I didn't answer with words. I just pulled him down, closing the distance between us. The kiss was hesitant at first, as if he had forgotten how, but then the memory returned, and it became deeper, more certain. His arms wrapped around me, pulling me closer, and it was perfect because it was real, human, his. When we separated, both of us were breathless. Dante rested his forehead against mine, his eyes closed. I forgot how good it felt, to be touched like this, to hold like this, to feel like this. "Then let's remember together," I whispered. "Everything. What it's like to be human. What it's like to live without fear. What it's like to be loved." He pulled me closer, adjusting my body against his, my head resting where his heart beat strongly. "The beast's head used to rest in your lap," he murmured. "Now the man's head rests in the same place. Some circles are destined to close." I ran my fingers through his hair, still long, still disheveled, but clean now, human. "You were never a beast, Dante. You were just a king without his queen." I felt him smile against my neck. "And now? Now you have both, your kingdom, and—" I hesitated, my heart pounding. "And your queen, if you still want me." He pulled back enough to look at me. Surprise, hope, love, all mixed in his golden eyes. "You would stay? Even after everything? Even knowing what I was? You were a survivor, a victim, a warrior." I touched his face. "And through it all, you were kind, protective, mine. So yes, I'll stay. If you accept me." "Accept you?" He laughed. A low, wonderful sound. "Valentina, you are the only reason I am still alive, the only reason I fought to come back. You are not something I accept. You are something I choose. Every day, forever." He kissed me again, deeper this time. promising things that words couldn't capture. And there, under the full moon, on the edge of the forest where wolves ran free, 2 exiles found their home. Not in a place, but in each other. The king had returned. The queen was by his side. And for the first time in 5 years, the clan had something it had lost: hope and true love. Thank you for being here and for joining me for another story. I truly hope you enjoyed it. If you want, leave your comment. I love reading what you feel and think after each episode. Thank you for the love, and see you in the next story.